गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम्। कृतण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्यैः सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विशेषपुरोगणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्ते नमः। वेदव्यासं स्वात्मरूपं सत्यसन्धं परायणं शान्तं जितेन्द्रियक्रोधं सशिष्यं प्रणमाम्यहम्। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। नारायणपरो व्यक्तादण्डमव्यक्तसमूहो मुण्डस्यान्तस्तु मे लोकाः सप्तद्वीपाशमेदिनीम् पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणे स्वयं व्यासेन कृतितं पुराणमुनिनां मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीमष्टादशाध्यायिनीं वा त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवेद्वेषिणीम् श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। अवतीर्णश्च कालट्यां केदारेन्द्रहितश्च चतुष्पीठप्रतिष्ठादाय यदाच्यङ्करो गुरुः। We're looking in the Karma-Sanyasa Yoga. We were looking at the sixth shloka as part of Bhagavan explained to Arjuna on how the Sannyasa or Sankhya and Yoga both lead to moksha. He was explaining that. We were looking at this shloka, sixth shloka, Sannyasastu Mahabaho Dukkama Yogatah Yoga-yukto Madhur-Brahma Nacharena-adhigacchati. So, but the renunciation is hard to attain without Karma Yoga. So, we looked at why Karma Yoga is the first one should go for. And with Chitta Shuddhi, then Sannyasa will automatically come, Vairagya will automatically come. And with that, Sannyasa and then the Brahma Jnana. That will be the state. So, one will attain that state, that sthanam, and they will attain that. So now Bhagavan says that, but renunciation, the sannyasa is hard to attain without karma yoga. The meditative man equipped with the yoga attains Brahman without delay. So that's the shloka we started looking yesterday, last time, and we will continue from that point onwards. So Bhagavan here again here is explaining how does that Vaidika Karma Yoga lead to this moksha. How does it lead to that? So that's the explanation is going, and Acharya explains in his Bhashya, Bhagavad Shankara Acharya explains in his Bhashya that, O Arjuna, O mighty armed one, O Mahabahu, Sannyasastu Paramarthika Dukkam Aptam Praptam Ayogadah Yogena Vina. So he says that sannyasa, renunciation in the real sense, is hard to attain without karma yoga. It is very difficult to attain. And he says that Munihi Mananat Ishvara Surupasya Munihi. So he says that the Muni means the meditative man who is the word Muni. The word Muni is derived in the sense of the one who meditates. Mananat. Munihi Mananat. So he is the one who meditates on the, what he meditates on? Meditates on Ishvara Surupasya. He meditates on the real Surupa, nature of Ishvara. He meditates on that. So that's why he is known as Muni. And that Muni, Yoga Yukta. So that Muni who is equipped with yoga. Yoga Yukta Vaidikena Karma Yogena Ishvara Samarpita Rupena Pala Nirapekshena Yuktaha. So Acharya says that the Yoga Yukta, that Muni, that Yoga Yukta equipped with yoga. And Yoga Yukta, again, the definition is with Vedic Karma Yoga, Vedika Karmas, as the rights and duties said in the Shāstras, in the form of performing them as it did, in the form of dedication to Ishvara, without hankering for the results for oneself, such a person attains the Brahman without delay, very quickly attains. That's what Acharya explains here, the Bhagavan's Vakya. And therefore, it was said by me, Bhagavan saying, therefore it was said by me that Karma Yoga excels. When he said that Karma Yoga is Shrestha. So among Karma-Sanyasa and Karma Yoga is Shrestha. That's why I said that. So Karma Yoga leads to enlightenment through the stages of weakening attachment, withdrawal from the internal and external organs from their objects, and then their inclination towards indwelling self. So these are all the stages it goes through, and that's why it goes Karma Yoga. I said Bhagavan says that Karma Yoga is Shrestha. And he says that Acharya explains further that Brahma Paramatma Jnana Nishta Lakshanatvat Prakrita Sanyasa Brahma Uchyate. Nyasa iti Brahma Brahma hi para iti Shrutehe. Brahma Paramartha Sanyasam Paramartha Jnana Lakshana Jnana Nishta Lakshanam Nachirena Kshiprameva Adigachati Prapnoti. So the Sanyasa that's being discussed here is called Brahman. So again, here Bhagavan says that the Muni, the Yoga Yukta, attains that Brahman very quickly, right? So that sannyasa is said, that's discussed here is called as Brahman because it leads to the knowledge of the Paramatman, needs knowledge, the jnana of that Supreme Self. It leads to that, as stated in the Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad and Mahanarayana Upanishad, for example, says that Nyasa iti Brahma, Brahma hi para. So it says that Nyasa, that is Sannyasa, is Brahman, and Brahman is certainly the Supreme. He is the Para, Brahma hi para. So Brahma is certainly Supreme, and Nyasa is the Brahma. So Brahma, Sannyasa is the Brahman. So that is the state. So that's what being mentioned here. So the Sannyasa that's mentioned here is actually the moksha itself, Brahma itself. So that's the state one attains. That's what Bhagavan says. And Brahman means sannyasa in the real sense, consisting of steadfastness to the knowledge. So jnana nishtata. So Brahman here again means that jnana nishta in that Paramatman itself. So Paramatma jnana nishta lakshanatvat prakrita sannyasa Brahma uchyate. So that's what Acharya explains. So again, here what's Bhagavan saying is the sannyasa which is resorted to suddenly without yoga, without having performed the scriptural duties which purifies the mind, without performing them, is only for getting dukkham, misery. Because steadfastness in knowledge, jnana nishtata, which is the result of that sannyasa, is impossible on account of having the impure mind. If one is of impure mind, they cannot attain that sannyasa state. And instead, it will result in dukkha, misery. And that's why Sri Madhusudan Saraswati in his Gudarth Devika also he says that Ashuddhanta Karnenapi Sannyasa eva pratamam kuto na kriyate jnana nishta hetutvena tasya avashyakatvaditi chetatraha ayogato yogamantakarana shodakam shastriyam karmantarena hatadeva yah krita sannyasa satu dukkhamaptumeva bhavati. So he clearly says that the sannyasa which is taken, resorted suddenly without that purification of the mind, and purification of the mind happens going through this karma yoga, through performing the duties and rites said in the Shastras, going through that, then only, and offering, doing that, performing that, dedicating that to Bhagavan, Ishvara, then only purification of mind happens. Without that, if one takes sannyasa, then it results in dukkha, misery. And because it is impossible to get sannyasa, that denotes the state which is talked about, that jnana-nishta state, steady state of knowledge, is impossible to get in, because sannyasa means you are in that steady state of that jnana. That is very difficult to get. when the mind is impure. Your indriyas are not controlled. Indriyas are always looking for going after the vishayas, objects of indriyas. It's going after that, then it is not possible. And Srimatsu Saraswati also says that Ashuddhantakaranattvena tatpalasya jnananishthaya asambhavat shodake cha karmanyanadikaratmaka karma brahmobhaya brashtattvena parama sankatapatte tattehe. So he says that. So this is one way he looked at it, right? So if one jumps to sannyasa without that purification of the mind, he is going to get misery. But also, and because he says that on account of absence, so because once you go to sannyasa, you are effectively giving up your karmas, nitya karmas and naimitya karmas and all those karmas which are said in the Shastras, you are giving up because that is karma-sanyasa. You have given up that. Because once one takes that sannyasa, on account of absence of that, of the eligibility for the karmas, which are the cause of purification, so that person now is taken sannyasa, his mind is not pure, okay? In that case, he has given up the karmas which actually result in purification of mind. So he's not doing anything now to purify himself, even though he's in sannyasa, he need to purify, but he's not doing that. Then there arises greater danger, not just he is taken the sannyasa early, okay, went into sannyasa mode very early, given up karmas, performing the karmas, but also there is a great danger of being deprived of both karma and Brahman, because he is not ready to attain that Brahman state, that mukti state, moksha, because his mind is not purified, he is not in full that sannyasa state, he is not attained that jnana nishtata, he is not attained that. But also, because he is now given up the karma as part of the sannyasa, his purification is also not happening. That means his karma is also not there. So without karmas and without Brahmas, he is Brahman, he is in the great danger. That's what Srimad Saraswati calls out. That's why one should not attempt that. But he says that karma yoga yuktastu shuddhantakaranatvan munir mana मननशीलस सन्यासी भूत्वा ब्रह्म सत्य ज्ञानादि लक्षणमात्मानं नचिरेण शीघ्रमेवाधिगच्छति साक्षात् करोति प्रतिबंधक अभावात्. He says that, but the yoga yukta, the one who is engaged in the karma yoga, having become a muni, having become a meditator, a man of renunciation, man of sannyasa, given to meditation by the virtue of having pure mind, that person adhigacchati, he attains, he realizes Brahman, the self, the characterized as the truth, consciousness, and so on. So he attains that. So Brahma Satya Jnana Adi Lakshanam Atmanam. So he is that Satya Jnana, Ananda, all these lakshana, all these characteristics of that Brahman. He attains that, he realizes that nachirena, without delay, he attains that quickly indeed, on the account of absence of obstacles. For him, there is no obstacles because he has that vairagya. He is in that sannyasa state. Now, he is quickly attains that. And that also stated previously also in the 3rd chapter, 4th shloka, where, for example, Bhagavan says that कर्मणाम अनारंभै नैष्कर्म्यं पुरुषोष्णते न च संन्यसनादेव सिद्धिं समधिगच्छति, where he said that, Bhagavan said that a person does not attain freedom from the karmas by non-performance of the karmas, nor does he attain fulfillment through simply renunciation, sannyasa. So he said that already in the 3rd chapter, but then again we are repeating again. So again, I think we looked at the end of 2nd adhyaya, Sankhya Yoga, that Sankhya Yoga is the summary of entire Bhagavad Gita, and again Sankhya Yoga is the bija, so it is the seed of entire Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, and then 18th chapter summarizes the whole thing again we looked at. In between, you have the same thing repeated, but in detail, right? So it explained in detail. So again, even the third chapter, that fourth sloka said the same thing, where the person does not attain freedom from karmas by non-performance of the karmas, and nor does he attain fulfillment through simply sannyasa, renunciation. He attains that. So that's why it is the same thing has been said already, and Bhagavan is saying again as part of this discussion as well that's going on. Hence, ekapalatve api karma-sanyasat karma-yogo vishishyate. So that's why, though the result of both is same, that is the karma and sannyasa is same, or sankhya and yoga is same, yoga and sankhya is same, then still what is stated before, that is karma yoga excels over sannyasa of karmas, karma sannyasa was proper. It is excels. The second shloka here, Bhagavan said, where he said that karma sannyasa is shreshta than karma yoga. That still, karma yoga is shreshta over karma sannyasa is still proper, because that is the one that's applicable to people like Arjuna, people like us. And now, Arjuna might have a doubt now hearing this, saying that is it not that the action being because karma results in the bondage, right? Karma means it is attachment. You have to do something, you are attached to something. Okay, whether it is you grow a flower plant, you get attached to it. Okay, you look after a cow for milk, you probably will attach to that cow, not just milk. You want your ultimate objective is to get milk and ghee for your pujas or homa, whatever it is, right? That is your ultimate purpose. But for that, you have to look after a cow. That means you have attachment to that cow. You need flowers, so you grow plant. So you look after that plant and you get attached to it. Something happens to that, you look after it. So it becomes attached. So the karma yoga, even though you're saying it is perform this, that's the cause of the bondage. So Arjuna, again, remember this, we are using Arjuna as a character here, but it is all of us. Whatever Arjuna is asking is all of us asking, right? So all of us in that same boat. So Arjuna is nimitta matra, as Acharya explains here. Arjuna is nimitta matra. He is just used as an example here, right? So, but Bhagavan's message is to all of us. So in our mind says that, okay, if Bhagavan is saying that perform karmas, but it is the result of the bondage. It is improper for a person engaged in the yoga, having become a meditator, attains dharma, how it is possible. So for that, Bhagavan explains in the next shloka, where he says that yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriya sarva bhutatma bhutatma kurvannapi lipyate. Yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriya sarva bhutatma bhutatma kurvannapi lipyate. So endowed with yoga, yoga yukta, pure in mind, controlled in the body, a conqueror of the organs, the self of the selves of all the beings, he does not become tainted even while performing the karmas. That's the meaning. Yoga yukta is the one who is performing these yogas, karma yoga, united in the consciousness with Ishvara. And Vishuddhatma means one who is purified intellect. Vijitatma means one who has conquered the mind. Jita Indriya means having conquered the senses. Sarva Bhuta Atma Bhutatma is one who sees Atma of all the Atmas in every living beings. Kurvan means performing. Api means although. Na means never. Lipyate means entangled. So here Acharya helps us explaining this shloka by, again, this shloka talks about a sage or a sannyasi's actions do not affect him. A karma sannyasi's actions do not affect him. That's what the summary here is. So here again, when again as a means to attain that full enlightenment, this persons become yoga yukta. Yogena yukta. So he becomes yoga yukta. He is endowed with yoga, that is devoted to performance of nitya and naimittika karmas. And vishuddhatma. He becomes vishuddha sattva, pure in mind. And Vijitatma, he became Vijita Deha, controlled in the body, controlled in body. He is controlled in body. And Jitendriya, a conqueror of the organs. And he becomes Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma. Sarvesham Brahmadinam Stambhoparyantanam Bhutanam Atma Bhuta Atma Pratyak Chetano Yasya Saha Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma Samyak Darshi Ityartaha. So Acharya says that the Atma of the Atmas and selves, the self of the selves of all the beings, one whose Atma, the innermost consciousness, has become the Atma of all the beings, Sarva Bhutas, beginning from Brahma to a clump of grass. That is, he becomes that because he sees everywhere that Paramatma, same Atma, whatever he has, he sees that in everything, and he becomes fully illuminated, Samyak Darshi. He becomes Samyak Darshi, he becomes fully illuminated, he fully realized person. Then, thus, continuing in that state, he na lipyate, he does not become tainted, kurvannapi, even while performing the karmas, for preventing the mankind from going astray. So he does that to prevent people going from astray. Because if such a person, jnani, gives up his performing his karmas, then people will think that even he is not doing, why should I do? Right? So we looked at again previously using Janaka and others examples, saying that they loka sangrahartam, they perform these karmas. Even though they are realized, they have jnanis, they have continued to perform karmas because loka sangraha, to prevent people going from astray. And this is what Krishna also said to Arjuna, saying that you perform this because if you don't do it, people will follow you. And Idyadacharita Shrestha. So as the great people do, others will follow as well. That's why these people, here what we are talking about in this shloka is the sannyasi, the realized one, Sarva Bhutatma, the one who has realized completely, Samyak Darshi, such a person who has controlled his body and indriyas, who is pure in mind, who is known as the Yoga Yukta, who is endowed with that yoga. So such a person, na lipyate, he does not become tainted, even while performing the karmas for preventing mankind from going astray. For preventing people from going astray, he performs the karmas. He looks like he performs the karmas. That is to say, he does not become bound by those actions. He does not become attached to those actions. When this person resorts to those nitya, naimittika karmas and the duties as means to achievement of full illumination, full realization, and thus becomes fully enlightened, even then, when he acts through the apparent functions of the mind, organs, etc., he does not get affected. He remains unattached to those things. So, again, Bhagavad Darpana Bhalabi Sandirahityadi Gunayuktam Shastriyam Karma-Yoga Ittichede. So, again, here, scriptural actions associated with such qualities as dedication to Ishvara and absence of hankering for the results is known as the Karma Yoga, is known as the yoga. Tena yogena yuktaha purusha pratamam vishuddhatma vishuddho rajasta samobhya akalushita atmantara antakarana rupam sattvam yasya sa tada. So, Yoga Yukta is the one who is associated with yoga. A person endued with yoga first becomes pure in mind, and one is said to be so whose Atma, Sattva in the form of his mind, and is not polluted by Rajas and Tamas gunas. Again, we look at the gunas later in the Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. We will look at that later. But he becomes the pure form of sattva, and then having become pure in mind, he becomes Vijitatma. He becomes Nirmalantakrana San Vijitatma Svavashikrata Deha. So he is controlled in body. He has this body under his control, and Tato jitendriya. So tato jitendriya savashikrata sarvabahindriya. So then he becomes jitendriya. He is a conqueror of the organs, one who has under his control of all the external organs. So such a person is known as jitendriya. He becomes that, and this is said in the, for example, as a characteristic of a Tridandi sannyasi in Manusmriti. So where Manu says that वाग्दण्डो अथ मनोदण्ड कायदण्डस्तथैव च यस् यस्यैते नेता दण्ड स त्रिदण्डी इति कथ्यते. Manu says that speech is a danda, staff for him. Mind is a danda. So danda is the stick or the staff the sannyasi sword. Okay, so he's three dandas Manu talks about. One is speech is the staff, danda for him. Another one is mind is his staff, and also his body is his danda. And he who has these three dandas under control is called as a tridandi. That's what Manu says. So again, speech here is used as a representative of all the outer organs, all the organs. So that's one thing. Manas is another thing. Body is another thing. And same thing here, Bhagavan talking about Vijitatma, Videyatma and those things. Bhagavan is saying that Vishuddhatma, Vijitatma is talking about the same thing. And Bhagavan here says that to a person of this kind, the knowledge of reality comes definitely. And the one whose Atma, the real nature, consists in being all the things and being the self, such a person is Sarva Bhutatma, Bhutatma. The idea is Jada Jadatmakam, Jada Ajadatmakam, Sarvam Atma Matram Pashyan Ityartaha. So that means the idea here is that he, by seeing everything, whether it is Jada, sentient or insentient, as nothing but Atma. So that's the Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma. And a man of this kind who has realized the highest truth, na lipyate, does not become tainted by those actions, even while performing the karmas as seen by the others. Even the others see him as performing the karmas, he does not become tainted by them because they are absent from his own point of view. For him, he does not consider himself doing us any karmas, even though he might be doing those things for Lokasangraha, he does not consider that as his karmas. And he does not have any hankering for those things and things like that. And that is the meaning here. And besides, this person does not act in the real sense as well. He does not act. And that very idea, Bhagavan explains in next two shlokas. He explains in the 8th and 9th shlokas of this adhyaya, where he says that Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavid pashyan shrunvan sprashan jigran ashnan gachan swapan shwasan pralapan visrujan grinnan unmishan nimishan api indriyani indriyarteshu vartanta iti dharayan. Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavid pashyan shrunvan sprashan jigran ashnan gachan swapan shwasan pralapan visturjan grannan unmishan nimishan api indriyani indriyarteshu vartanta iti dharayan. So remaining absorbed in the self, in the Atma, the knower of that reality, that jnani, that the realized person, should think that I certainly do not do anything, even while seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving, sleeping, breathing, speaking, realizing, holding, opening, closing, releasing, holding, opening, closing, the eyes, remembering that the organs functions in relation to the objects of the organs. So indriyani indriyarteshu vartanta iti dharayan. So na means not, eva certainly, kinchit anything, karomi I do, iti thus, yuktaha steadfast in karma yoga, manyate means things, Manyeta means things. Tattvavita means one who knows the tattva, truth, reality. Pashyan is seeing. Shrunvan is hearing. Sprashan is touching. Uh, and then Jigran is smelling. Ashnan is eating. Gachan is moving. Sapan sleeping. Shwasan breathing. Pralapan talking. Visarjan is releasing. Grinnan is accepting. Unmishan is opening the eyes. Nimishan is closing the eyelids. Api, although Indriyani is the senses. Indriyarteshu, the sense in the sense object. Vartante means moving. Iti means thus. Dharayan means convinced. So here Acharya explains these two shlokas saying that remaining absorbed in that self, remaining absorbed in that Paramatma Tattva, Tattvavit, that is Tattvavit Atmano Yathatman Tattva Vettiti Tattvavit Paramartha Darshi Ityartha. So the Tattvavit, that remaining absorbed in that self, the knower of the reality, that is the knower of the real nature of the truth, the real nature of the tat, that tattva, paramatma tattva of the self, that is the seer of that supreme reality, paramartha darshi. Such a person should think that nayava kinchit karomi, na karomi eva. So he should think that I certainly do not do anything. So he should think that na karomi eva kinchit. He should think that I certainly do not do anything. So like this he should think. And having realized the truth, when or how he should think, that's Bhagavan explains that api, even pashyan, while seeing, shrunvan, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving, sleeping, breathing, speaking, releasing, holding, opening and closing of the eyes, all these are to be connected with he should think. So he should think that I do not do anything. In all those stages, he should think that I do not do anything. Because yasya evam tattvavidha sarvakaryakarana cheshtashu karmasu akarmaiva pashyata samyak darshinah tasya sarvakarma-sanyase eva adhikarah karmanah abhava darshanat. So because the man who has known the truth, that is that reality, thus who finds nothing but inaction in action. So again we looked at previous adhyaya, right? One who sees action and inaction, inaction and action, he is the realized one. So that's what here it is. The man who has known the truth, who finds nothing but inaction and inaction in all the movements of the body and organs, and who has full realization, there is a competence only for giving up the actions because of his realization with the non-existence of the actions. So there is, for him, there is no actions to perform. That's why he sees all this as non-action. And Acharya here gives a example, like for example, he says that nahi mrigatir trishnikayam udakabuddhyapanaya pravritta udakabhava-jnanepi tatraiva pana-prayojanaya pravartate. He says that indeed one who proceeds to drink water in a mirage, thinking that water is there, surely does not go there itself for drinking the water, even after knowing that there is no water. Right? So you want to drink water, you see in the desert, you see water somewhere far away, a little bit further away. So that's a mirage actually. You proceed towards that. But once you realize that it's not water, you surely are not going to go in that direction and continue with the hope that drinking the water. Right? Same thing here for that jnani, knowing that this karma is not going to help in anything, he is not going to continue saying that I am performing these karmas for chitta shuddhi or whatever the purpose is. So he's not going to perform. That's what Acharya says. For him, that's even though he's performing, he thinks in action in all that. So, and Srimad Saraswati again explains the same thing, but explains a little bit further. I'll quickly touch on that. He says that Edadeva Vibrunoti Dvabhyam Chakshuradi Jnanendriyair Vagadi Karmendriyaihi Pranadi Vayu Vedair Antakarana Chatushtayena Cha Tattas Cheshtasu Kriyamanasu Indriyani Indriyadinyeven Indriyarteshu Svavisheshu Vartante Pravartante Nahatvaviti Darayan Naiva Kinchit Kromi Manyate. He says that while respective karmas are being performed by Chakshuradi Jnanendriyai. So Chakshu, eyes, by the sense organs, Jnanendriyas, like eyes and so on, are performing those karmas. Vagadi Karmendriyai, the Karmendriyas, motor organs, like speech and so on, being performed, and Pranadi Vayubhedair Antakarana Chatushtayena, the different forms of the pranas, prana, apana, and so on, and the rest, and the fourfold internal organs, that is the Antakaranas, so Manasu, mind, Buddhi, intellect, Chitta, mind stuff, and Ahankara, egoism. So with that, the Yukta, the one whose mind is absorbed in the Atma, in the self, who is knower of the reality, a seer of the supreme truth, he manyeta, he thinks that na eva karomi, I certainly do not do anything kinchit. He thinks like that. And knowing certainly that the organs, etc., themselves function in relation to the objects of the organs, in relation to their own respective objects. They function themselves. I do not do anything. So he thinks that I do not do anything because organs function themselves with the objects of those organs, whatever that they need to do. But I do not function. Karma, whatever that's happening, I am not attached to that. I do not do anything. That's what he thinks. Again, the construction here, again, sentence is the first becoming Yukta, engaged in the Karma Yoga, then later on becoming the knower of the reality, Tattvavit, through the purification of the mind. And then he thinks that na karomi, kinchit, I certainly do not do anything. And again, by saying tatra darshana shravana sparshana pranashanani chakshu shrotra tvag prana rasananam pancha jnanendriyanam vyaparah pashyan shrunnan sprashan jigran ashnan ityukta. So by saying that all these things, Pashyan, Shrunnan, Sprishan, Jigran, Ashnan, and all these are things mentioned: hearing, seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, all those the functions of 5 sense organs: ears, eyes, ears, skin, nose, tongue, has been said. And then by saying Gati Padayoh Pralapo Vachaha Visargaha Payupastayoh Grahanam Hastayoriti Pancha Karmendriya Vyaparaha. So Gachan as Pralapan Visrajan Nigrahan Ityukta. So by saying movement of the 2 feet, Gachan, right? And then Pralapan, by speaking, and then of the which is the organ of speech, and then Visrajan, which is the releasing or ejection of the organs of excretion and generation. So it is from that. And then grinnan, grasping with the hands. And these are the functions of the motor organs or karmendriyas. By saying gachan, pralapan, visarjan, grinnan and things like that, Bhagavan talks about the karmendriyas. So he talked about the jnanendriyas and karmendriyas. And then he says Shvasaniti prana pranadi panchakasya vyaparopalakshanam. He says that the shvasan and so on, he says from that breathing is indicative of the five pranas, prana, apana, vyana, those like this, the pancha pranas, he is talking about that. And then unmishan nimishan niti nagakurmadi panchakasya. So when Bhagavan talks about unmishan nimishan, he says that he is talking about the nagakurmadi panchaka. So he talks about unmishan is opening and nimishan is closing of the eyes, are indicative of the functions of the group of the five other pranas. So naga, kurma, uh, uh, so again, main pancha pranas are prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana, these five. But then there are Sankhya, according to Sankhya, there is another five, which is Naga, Kurma, Krikala, Devadatta, and Dhananjaya. So total 10 pranavayus. So this Unmishan, Nimishan, these talk about those other five, Naga, Kurma, Krikala, Devadatta, and Dhananjaya. And Swapan Nityantakarana Chatushtayasya. So when he talks about Swapan, sleeping, he is talking about the fourfold Antakarana. So the Antakarana he is talking about that the mind, the Manasu, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara. He is talking about that when he is talking about the sleeping. So the idea here is that Yasmat Sarva Vyapareshvapyatmano akartrutvamev pashyati atha kurvannapi na lipyata iti yuktamevokta miti bhavaha. So the idea here is that since that yoga yukta sees only non-agentship in the self in all the activities, because he says non-agentship, I do not do these things, he sees that, therefore, it has been justifiably said that does not become tainted even while performing the karmas, na lipyate. That's why they said, Kurvan, even when he is doing those karmas, is na lipyate. That's what he's saying. And then Bhagavan now starts explaining. We start looking at the next shloka where Bhagavan explains that Karma Yogi is untainted by the results of his actions. So the Karma Yogi is untainted by the results of his actions, because here Arjuna's doubt might come. In the case of an ignorant man, the unrealized person, who surely becomes tainted on account of his idea of agentship, because when you are performing the karma, saying I'm performing this nitya karma. So if you are thinking those ideas, saying that I'm performing, this body is performing, or I'm talking, I'm saying these shlokas and things like that, when you are saying that, even though you are saying I'm doing all this for Bhagavan Ishvara Prityartham, you are saying that I am saying this, that is from whatever the speech coming out of this, saying that I am doing this, right? So that agentship, because of that, he becomes tainted. Arjuna's doubt, right? That being so, how can he have jnana-nishtata, steadfastness in knowledge preceded by sannyasa? How can he reach that state if he is thinking that I am still doing that, I am the one doing this, I'm saying this bhajan, or I'm doing this puja, whatever it is, when he's saying that, when he's I'm going this tirtha yatra, all these things, when he talks about that, how can he be he will be tainted? How can he attain that sannyasa state? So also, again, the man who is that ignorant, who is engaged in this karma yoga, Bhagavan explains that in the next shloka. He says that brahmanyadaya karmani sangam tyakta karotiha lipyate nasa papena padmapatra mimambasa. This is a brahmanyadhaya karmani sangam tektva karoti ha lippyate nasa papena padmapatra vimambhasa. So this padmapatra vimambhasa is talked about everywhere. Okay, so this is like whenever we talk about sannyasi, Jivan Mukta, we talk about Padmapatra Vimambhasa. That's the character. We'll come to that in a little bit later. So the one who acts by dedicating his karmas to Brahman and by renouncing attachment, he does not become polluted by sin, just as a lotus leaf is not by the water. Even though it remains in the water, it does not get anything attached in the water. So Brahmani means by to the Ishvara. Adaya means dedicating. Karmani means all karmas, all actions. Sangam means attachment. Tektva is abandoning. Karoti performs. Yaha who lipyate is affected. Na never. Saha that person. Papena by sin. Padmapatram as a lotus leaf. Iva like. Ambasa means by water. So we look at this shloka in detail next time. Stop there. Thank you.